I really didn't want to have to come on here and say my sentiments and express my regard as far as all this is concerned. Hi there, by the way. You know what? Regarding the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, I kind of just predicted this, saw this coming. I mean, I'm not at all surprised that things went down the way that they did, and watching Vosh and his take on it and everything, I kind of saw things his way. It's just, you know, sentimentally, like this case has broader implications than just, Kyle Rittenhouse's behavior. And it kind of feels disappointing in that regard because it's like, I think that my First Amendment rights are far more threatened by the idea of somebody showing up at a protest with a gun, to express dissatisfaction with what I'm doing than it is with somebody, insinuating that I'm racist or a bigot or that I'm a sexist or any of that kind of thing. Although, those things do bother me, but they're not, they're not on the same level, you know. There's a level difference there. And we've just turned our society into one in which, if you want to express your dissatisfaction, you can expect that our society is now openly deputizing people to show up with AR-15s to police protest and your behavior at protest. So yeah, that's not good ultimately. But one thing that has me in a state of just fuck you all sentimentally is just, being told that, we're the adults in the room, get out, let this leave this discussion for the actual adults, get out of it and whatnot. Um, Sir, ma'am, whoever you are, I completely and categorically reject your definition of adulthood. As far as I'm concerned, I trust my own judgment, and it doesn't matter if 350 million Americans tell me I'm wrong. I think my opinion overrules them all. Yeah, that's right. This whole country could be united against me, and I think only my opinion counts. And there's a reason for that. And a reason for that kind of broad, arrogance towards our society that is entirely justified and reasonable. You know, I have known and been aware for years of basic facts like which audiences are more informed than other audiences when it comes to the news and to news reports that are, actually mattered to me. And I've long held the sentiment that you all need to stop screeching your opinions when you know, you're so terribly informed. I mean, like, I think that you should have to earn the right to have an opinion by being informed about a matter. And the fact that so many of you won't do, that basic due diligence before you involve yourself in screeching here on social media about all your thoughts and opinions. But, whatever, ultimately, we have this cult of ignorance in the United States, which basically acts like, since it's a democracy, that your ignorance is just as good as my knowledge. Ultimately, the same way Isaac Asimov, basically put forward in his little comments about the cult of anti-intellectualism here in the United States. And what drives me, up the wall and up the ante about all this shit is that for years, the American people have been incredibly misinformed, and yet, you all want to sit up here and tell me, you want to stand up here and tell me that, I should trust your judgment more than my own when you've proven to me time and time again that the American people are not very good at judging anything. As a body of people, I mean, for years, it remained a rather stubborn fact that the majority of the public was convinced that 9/11 and Saddam Hussein had some kind of link to each other. It didn't matter how many times the news reports hit them with a debunking of this because they just wanted to believe in conspiracy theories regarding the news and to believe that the news was ultimately lying to them and that journalists were conspiring to deceive them in some way and that they could only trust news if it was biased in the Republicans' favor and biased in their direction. And you hear these insane level quotes from the Bush administration that the rest of you just live in the fucking reality based community, but that's not how the world works these days. When we act, we create our own realities, which is just a fundamental level of conceit and arrogance that is just off the astonishing. It's breathtaking. The Bush administration, what Bush was a fucking idiot, and I don't care where he went to school, and I don't care about his academic record. You know what? The man telling him this, I've never been pulled over for a DUI, so you know what? Fuck off to you people who want to say like, no, he was brilliant. He read books and such. So do I. Shut up. I just I can't. I can't. I'm having difficulty, coping in a lot of ways with America's just, fucking idiocy. So, I mean, yeah, I'm coming up here to rant a little bit about what I have to deal with, but I mean, like so many of you, like it is now evident to me that if I were to randomly query most of you about, to name the three branches of government as a test, the vast majority of you couldn't do it. The vast majority of you couldn't name your own senator. You know, you couldn't name mine either over here in Oregon. You couldn't name the senators in another state. You don't even know who represents you in government, on average. The average person is so tuned out of all of this shit. They know next to fucking nothing about politics, and yet, that you want to tell me about the adults in the room because it's the mature adult thing to do to trust everybody else's judgment more than your own. No, I mean I'm there. I'm at that point. America has proven to me that I should trust that my judgment has the authority required to overrule all of you and tell you all in unison, even when you're all united against me, that you're all wrong and I'm right, and only my perspective is valid. Yours are all inherently invalid when I need to. And this has been a consistent problem for me, which is that when I get the news and when I see something that's going on, I often see things like headlines from like the media, in the sense that like the media will get these reports that come in, and what we'll hear is that like a certain percentage of the Americans don't believe in anthropogenic climate change, and that humans are at the cause of climate change. And it's like that headline should be altered to, you know, a majority of Americans are wrong about something again, but no surprise because you should expect this by now. I mean, we have a media that engages in false comparisons and false, equivalences between things all the time. You know, and there's this whataboutery that happens whenever somebody criticizes like the January 6th protest, where the American people will come in and, as if this is critical thinking, try to muddy the waters intellectually by bringing up, what about the Black Lives Riot, Matters riots that happened, a few months before? Where were you when that happened? Why are you not outraged about those riots? That person and their whataboutery is a logical fallacy, and it's Russian propaganda, by the way, that the Russians have used whenever America calls out the human rights abuses over there in Soviet Russia. Go ahead. If anybody says, "What about the Black Lives riots?" Protest in response to you, being outraged about January 11th by saying, "Shut up and go away, you Russian infiltrator," basically. Just tell them, you're a Russian bot, shut the fuck up. Because that's what they're doing. They're bringing it in. And the intention there isn't, to ultimately, engage in an honest discussion in good faith. It's to muddy the waters and soil your reputation with an accusation of false, of inconsistent enforcement of your own moral principles, and to tar your reputation with a false charge, a fundamentally loaded charge of, hypocrisy. They're not interested ultimately in having a genuine discussion of the problems of what happened in January 6th. What they want to do is muddy the discourse and get us, caught up in this whole "you're selectively outraged" narrative. Fuck those people. So yes, to the women who, and then to the dismissive parties being like, tisk tisk, without you to correct that jury, where would they be? I have to finally get up here and tell you this. I think that I think that there's absolutely no reason whatsoever why one person and their intelligence and intellect couldn't be smarter than nine people in a room. You know, I think that there are natural variations in the level of human intellect, and that yes, one person can be smarter than a group of 20 people. So unless you have a good reason why this is not possible, that sometimes maybe one very good head isn't better than 20 bad heads, then don't come at me. Do you have any good reason here? You know, I don't see it. So I mean, why fundamentally is it not possible that my perspective couldn't override all of theirs? Because I don't see it genuinely. This is going to be a blind spot for me from now on, ultimately. And this is not a question that's coming from a bad faith place and point of view either. I don't understand for real why one person can't be smarter than 20 people.